So everybody, just to let you know, Kane Wagner from Appalachian Adventure is with us today, and it's going to be fantastic. I think we're going to have a great conversation today because Kane has been doing this for how long now?
Since 2019.
Since 2019. So I will leave links, descriptions, all that stuff down below. So if you want to make comments or check what he does out for the community, it'd be fantastic. But he's also part of BDR, right? Correct?
Correct, yeah.
He's affiliated with BDR. So again, we're going to cover a lot of things here, and hopefully you guys enjoy this interview, and we'll go from there. So thanks a lot. Thanks again for being with us, I guess.
Grab me.
Cheers. Hey, hold on. Let's get that in the camera. Cheers. All right.
Cheers.
All right. See, we're a little bit later in the day than what Chad and I did when we had breakfast. We're actually having a little bit of dinner and having a cocktail for happy hour. So anyhow, all right. So Kane, first thing I asked Chad, and I'm going to ask you because this is going to be my first question, I think, for everybody, is how did you get into adventure motorcycle? Like what did you do?
Well, I started late, just like you did.
Right,
I was
okay.
in my 30s when I started riding. So,
So wait, he says 30s. So did you say late? I'm 50s, 30s. Let's get that out of here.
a couple decade difference, but same premise, right? Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
I mean, back in the day, I played football, I did baseball, I ran triathlons, I coached football for a long time,
Right.
and I did mountain biking, snowboarding. I tried all these different things, and I love all of them. But
Right.
as soon as I jumped on a motorcycle, I knew that was like the main
Your
thing
thing,
I
huh?
wanted it to be. Yeah,
Nice.
for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, so what was your first bike?
Suzuki VStrom
V6.
650. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So the story about that one is my good friend of mine, Gabe. We worked together at OSU. He was a rider, I wasn't, and he knew I was interested. I had like an interest in it, but I never had done it.
Right.
So he would always give me like articles in magazines and send videos my way, and
Right.
we'd always talk about it at work.
Sure.
And one day he shows up to work with this shit-eating grin on his face. He's like, "I think I got a bike for you, man." And he went on Craigslist, he found this VStrom. He's like, "Let's go and check it out." So I drive my car there, he drives his bike there. And I don't know what I'm looking at because I've never really looked at motorcycles. So he gives me the nod, it looks good. He goes on a test ride. And next thing I know, I'm
You didn't
in.
even have your license, right?
I didn't. No license, nothing.
So you're looking at a bike. I got no license, no gear, no nothing, right?
Nothing.
I'm just gonna let my buddy do it.
Yeah. So he graciously takes it on a test ride.
Right.
Tells me it's good. I hand a check over, and then I follow him to my house. So he jumps on my new bike. I drive my car behind him. He parks it in the garage, and he goes home. And then my pregnant wife comes home and rips me a new one. Yeah.
Oh, that had to go over like a fart church.
Oh yeah. Lead balloon.
Oh my
man.
God.
Yeah. So, she was.
See, motorcycles, which every wife or anybody, they all get scared about, right?
Oh yeah.
And she's pregnant. How long was she pregnant?
Oh, she was like 7.5 months in.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, folks, if you haven't been around a woman that's pregnant, especially in that like last trimester, I don't know how he's still here to have this interview, to be quite honest with you.
I don't know either. I'm questioning it myself. Luckily, I have a very loving wife.
Right.
Thank you, honey. And
Hopefully she sees this.
I'm gonna show her.
Okay. Yeah. Proof. It's
Yeah.
proof. I got it on here.
So she's okay with it, luckily. And I start, the process of basically figuring out how to ride the thing.
Right.
So sitting in my garage now, I gotta do what I need to do. So my buddy Gabe comes in for the rescue again. He's all about safety, the ATGAT thing. So we go get helmets and ride all the proper riding gear with the armor. And him and I go out. I do the temporary license, thing. I go take the test. I get the temporary thing, and him and I start riding together. And we get the Senna so we can talk.
Okay.
And I
You see how you said Senna, and I do the Cardo thing, just FYI.
Yeah, I had to throw that in there.
Sorry.
So I'm following him, on the twisty
Right.
pavement. We basically have to learn how to ride on the pavement first.
Yeah.
So I'm following his lead, and then we'll stop and we'll talk about it. And then he'll get behind me and follow me. And then, you took that corner a little too wide or a little too tight. So, he's basically just coaching me through the whole way. And then eventually we start saying, hey, let's, at the long way down, long way round thing.
Yeah.
We're kind of into that. So he's like, hey, let's start hitting some dirt and gravel when we go out. So we start going out and doing the same thing on dirt and gravel.
Now, where was your first experience of that?
I was living in Columbus at the time, Ohio. So it was all down kind of around the Hocking area,
Okay, yeah.
right around where Waylon Wayne
Yeah.
is at, which is how I know how to.
So you got baptized there. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I understand.
So that, lasts for a couple years, and then eventually we start planning bigger and longer trips, and I have to talk the wife into those too. So the first long one was like down, did the back of the dragon, tail of the dragon,
Got it.
did a nice long weekend and come back.
Very nice.
Yeah. So eventually that's how the bug was started. And as soon as I started doing this and really getting into it and reading all the books and watching more of the adventure type stuff
Right.
and learning more about the BDR, I knew that, eventually down the road,
That's what you want.
there's something here that I can do with this.
That's
But
cool.
I'm just not there yet. I need to get more time in the saddle, get more experience, get in the community a bit more, and figure out a little bit more things before I can start, Appalachian ADV.
So you've got 650 VStrom.
Yeah.
So how long did that last then?
Until I bought my Tenere.
Oh, so you got your Tenere.
Yeah,
And
so-
how old's your Tenere now?
I bought that in 2020. So
Oh, okay. All right. So
So-
you've had that for a couple of years.
yeah,
Almost
So-
a year.
I went from VStrom 650, Tail of the Dragon, to Hatfield McCoy trails, Allegheny National Forest trails.
Nice.
All of that stuff was on my VStrom 650. So I took a lot of hard knocks, and I kind of learned the hard way
Right.
how to get through some of this stuff. And then when I jumped to the Tenere, it made such a huge difference. It was so much easier. I'm like, why didn't I do something like this, 5 years ago?
Right. Yeah.
But I felt like since I started later, I almost pushed myself harder on a bike that was really not appropriate for that type of terrain
right.
to try to speed myself up and kind of catch up a bit more to where I should have been.
And I will say, because I have been to one of Kane's rallies or whatever. What do we call? What was that?
That was a tour, PA Wild Tour.
The PA Wild Tour.
Yeah.
I have been to that one, and he loves his Tenere, by the way, because I do have some video of him fishtailing it, sprucing it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So we might have to have a little
For no real reason.
for no real reason. Yes, absolutely. So you got the Tenere. So so you've got this period of time where you're going through learning, putting the 650 through everything that you possibly can, right?
Yeah.
Now, did you start Appalachian Adventure before you got the Tenere?
I did, yeah.
You did. So
Yeah.
how did, all right, so we're going to segue there. We're going to, so you got into this thing, the wife's allowing you, but you got into this thing, and then now it's because I'm curious, because I've only been doing this for a couple of years, and
Yeah.
even though I'm doing this thing, it's YouTube thing, but to actually start your own business, to do this, it's a
Yeah.
lot, right? I mean, it's a
Oh,
big
yeah.
undertaking.
Oh, yeah.
So what made you do it, and how'd you come up with Appalachian Adventures? Give me
Right.
kinda, from the ground, how'd you
Okay.
start that?
Yeah. Well, truthfully, it started with writing. So when I started writing, especially after about the first year, and I started taking more and more trips with my friend Gabe, I started journaling and kind of writing some
Mhm.
details about the ride and trying to tell a bit more of a story with it. And eventually I started, Bike Bandit at the time had this thing, they put out a thing, hey, we're looking for guest bloggers. Anybody just submit something, and
Got it. Okay.
I submitted some stuff and they liked it and they started posting some of my things on their website. And that lasted a short time and they just decided not to do it anymore.
Okay.
And that's what made me decide about a year later. I had all these writings, I had written a few things that they didn't use, and I kept writing. And I'm like, I want to put these out somewhere, but I don't want to go through that again,
Right.
through somebody else. I want to do my own thing.
Right.
So I decided to start my website first. And then the term Appalachian ADV, I just started tossing around different names. And being in Youngstown, we're right on the edge
Oh yeah.
of Appalachia.
Absolutely.
And most of my riding when I first started was basically down in southern and southeast Ohio. So I felt that connection, Appalachian ADV, Appalachian Adventure, it just kind of made sense.
And then, obviously, from there, I mean, you bleed over into Pennsylvania, and
Right.
because when we rode, we did little portions of the Mid-Atlantic BDR, and now you got the the BDRX, you know, the PAX, right? Which I know you've got a lot of stuff entrenched around there as well. So,
Right, definitely.
so you've got a lot that you cover basically from central to western PA and through basically eastern and southeast of Ohio, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. So how did you? So you started Appalachian Adventure. You get all this up and running. When did you realize? Well, two things. The BDR affiliation.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's a big thing to me, at least I think to a lot of people, is that you know that you're being recognized, at least to me, because BDR just doesn't throw that out there. So you're getting recognized as someone that is able to use the, you know, the logo and stuff like that. But the other piece is, you got this BDR affiliation, but then to build the actual business, like how did like when those first few things that you put together, like how big were they, and you know, like you tell me that.
Yeah. So the BDR thing kind of I used that to build upon what I was trying to get towards. I reached out to them. They were looking for ambassadors at the time, and it was right around the time I started writing for Bike Bandit. So they brought me on board as an ambassador, and I went to some, you know, the Cleveland International Motorcycle Show a few times, did the trade shows there. I've done, you know, BDR documentary presentations. I've done those types of things for them, and it's been a great organization to work with, just because of their the mission that I had with AppalachianADV, and a lot of their mission with like bringing money into small communities, that type of thing. There's like a lot of crossover with what I was wanting to try to do.
Because I remember our ride when I was there is we always stopped at some great places, and that's the fun to me. That's always been the fun part of what I've been doing for the last 2 years. Any of my journeys is stopping at the places that are the little, you call them hole in the walls, or the little, just the little towns where, you know, people, you know, appreciate us stopping at these places because it makes, you know, it's more revenue for them, and you're not going to a chain, which is what we're sitting in today, but you know, you're going to a mom and pop joint that you know has maybe been in the family for years, and or someone that started something right out in the world wherever, and I think it's great that we do this for the community. That's awesome. Good for you.
The local flavors. I mean, and then a lot of times what happens is you go into these places enough, they start to remember you. And then they start to kind of give you their insight. Hey, you know, there's an awesome place if you go over here or if you go over there. So it's a nice mutual relationship to have with a lot of those kind of places.
That's kind of cool, because I'm sure that there's some roads or some areas that you would have never even known if the local guy hadn't said, you know, hey, you might want to try this. We go over here when we have deer season or whatever, you know, that type of thing or something. That's cool. So
I was going to say, going into the first events you were asking about.
Oh, yeah. So I've got one more question on the BDR.
Okay, yeah.
Let's do that. You said that you do the, you know, this. They got the Oregon one coming out. Are you going to do some stuff for the Oregon?
Yeah, we're doing. We're going to do the documentary presentation at Street Track and Trail.
Okay.
Which is in Conneaut Lake, and then at my Fool's Ride rally in April, on Thursday night, the first night, people can come in. They can set up camp. And we're going to show the movie that night as well.
Okay, so you heard that. You got Oregon BDR. He's going to do a couple of things. So now the flip side. Now let's get back to your
first start.
Yeah, like when you first had your first event, what was that like?
So I'm from Youngstown, Ohio.
Yeah.
And when I moved from Columbus back to Youngstown, I really just started exploring the local area because I was looking at it through different eyes. Like when I lived there before, I didn't ride a motorcycle, and I didn't even think about finding dirt and gravel roads. I didn't care about it. So when I moved back, for me to like spice up and figure out the best local places, I just started going out and riding.
Yeah.
And then I started running into people that say the same thing, you know, oh, I'm, you know, just trying to figure out where I'm going, and they point you in awesome directions and you find a lot of good stuff.
Right.
Eventually I got to a point, I'm like, this is actually pretty good. There's like a lot of really good riding around here that nobody ever really talks about it. So I decided I'm going to try to do just a nice little small scale event and see what people think, and see if I can actually put together some good routes, put together like a nice little event, and see what kind of feedback I get, basically.
Was it a 2-day, 3-day?
It was a 2-day.
2-day.
And I invited basically the people that came. So a friend of mine, we call him OGB.
Okay.
Because I've met Like for some reason I've met like a dozen Brians. He is the original Brian, so So him and I.
He's the one that. So, folks, by the way, there will be video of me at his PA ride, potentially going over the edge of a bank, maybe 75 or so feet down below.
We call it cliff diving.
Cliff diving.
Yeah.
And send it, whatever, yard sale, whatever you want to call it. And nobody really noticed I was gone for like a half hour or so. But his buddy, Brian, is when he came back at the end and helped me out.
Yeah. Best sweep in the business, man, and that's why. He knew something was up.
Right. Yeah, because he got to the end, folks, and he realized, wait a minute, the big guy of the GSA is not in front of me anymore. Where is he?
Yeah. So he had actually helped me scout some of the area. Yeah. And I invited another friend that I had met at Whalen Wayne Weekend, actually. His name's Joel.
Okay.
He's from Michigan. He came down. And then the other, I want to say 8 guys that I invited were people that I met randomly on social media.
Really?
So I didn't start doing social media until I started like deciding I was going to try to do events, and I started putting stuff out there, and I did a couple advertisements on social media, and I'd get people asking me questions, and I found out they're kind of semi-local to where I was at, and then I would just chat back and forth and to kind of see where their skill level was at, what they were looking for. And I handpicked these 8 guys and said, it seems like you're interested in riding like I do, which is kind of dumb with the VStrom. That I was on the VStrom at the time.
What were they riding?
Like
Ballpark.
KLRs, DRZs, like that, level. So I invited all these guys. We set up camp at one of the local campgrounds down near Richmond, Ohio. And they came down Friday night. We did a short little 50-mile loop and hit a little bit of off-road stuff just to kind of get a feel. It was really the first time I was leading a larger group of people, so I wanted to kind of get a feel for that on a smaller ride.
Right.
Did some trail stuff. That night we came back to camp, just kind of sat around and talked a bunch and shoot the breeze and went to bed. And the next morning got up, a couple more guys showed up, and then we did a nice long 100 or so mile ride with like 10 different off-road areas spread throughout it, and everybody had a blast. We had a great time. And then we come back to camp, and I didn't tell anybody, but I had my mom, my wife, my son cooking burgers. So everybody pulls up to free burgers.
But by the way,